Judge ready? Audience ready? Alright. I will begin in 3, 2, 1. John, your best friend. He has been with you since you were in kindergarten. He has been there when you had your tough times, and you were there when you had his. You two are the greatest friends ever. Your friendship will last a lifetime. Or at least, that's what it seemed. You're both in high school now, and he was involved in a car accident that almost ended his life. He was lucky. However, both his parents weren't. They were both killed. You feel bad for him, and you try to talk him out of his loss and focus on your guys' future. But he is too far gone. You both end up splitting the next day. Closure is a terrible word in human relationship. Once you love somebody, care for them, when they are lost, you still care for them. It is a different dimension, but you just can't turn it off. Pauline Boss. Loss. Both dead and alive. It is hard to deal with the death of a loved one, but it's even worse if they are alive. To get a more clear understanding, we have to look at the words ambiguous grief. Ambiguous grief is a grief experienced by the loss of a loved one who is still alive, accompanied by death or change of relationship. There are 2 types of ambiguous loss that I'll be covered shortly. So please, follow me today as we dig deep inside this mental illness that has changed the minds of millions. With pieces from Ambiguous Loss, a different kind of loss, by American Psychological Association and Pauline Boss, Managing Ambiguous Loss and Grief by Alzheimer's Society of Canada, What Ambiguous Loss Is and How to Deal with It by Cleveland Clinic, and 5 Stages of Grief by Cyvcom. With that, I present to you Deagration, a program. In death, there is finality, and our loved ones being both physically and psychologically lost. Ambiguous loss is different because closure is not possible. There is no clear cut or final. There are 2 types of ambiguous loss. Type 1 deals with physical loss, like you don't know whether a loved one has died or what has happened to them. Think, for example, of a parent whose child had just been kidnapped, or a person whose spouse has gone missing on military deployment. Examples include war and or acts of terrorism, kidnapping, deportation or genocide, and natural disasters. Type 2 deals with psychological loss, meaning mental or emotional disappearance. Like when somebody's personality changes so much, they no longer seem like the person you once knew. Examples include traumatic brain injury, drug or alcohol abuse, Alzheimer's disease, or any other form of dementia, and depression, or any other mental illness. Ambiguous loss is different from the loss experienced by the death of a loved one, because closure is not possible, and grief cannot be overcome while the person with dementia is still alive. But this ambiguity and these mixed feelings are expected with caregivers, with people with dementia. Grief it can have an experience for everyone, and there is no right way to grieve. But it is common to move through the 5 stages of grief. These include denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. Denial. Denial is the stage that can initially help you push past the loss. You start to deny the news and in fact go numb. Anger. Anger might start setting in when you start to live the actual reality and not the preferred reality. This is the common stage to think, why me? Or life's not fair. Bargaining. Have you ever caught yourself making a deal with God? Please, God, if you heal my wife, if you heal my husband, I will be the best wife ever and never complain again. Depression. Depression is a common form of grief. In fact, many people associate depression with grief as it is a present feeling. Acceptance. In this final stage of grief, identified by Kubler-Ross, is acceptance. Not in the fact that, oh, it's okay that my husband died, but my husband died, but I am going to be okay. If you're having trouble coping emotionally, look for a therapist who specializes in grief. It may be helpful to search for somebody who specializes in grief or the particular loss you are experiencing. You don't have to deal with ambiguous loss on your own.